Hello and welcome to the couch. This is episode 9, and last week we took a little bit of a hiatus. Some people were sick, had a weekend, just a busy week, but we're back to talk about some football today. And before we get into it too much, I want to say rest in peace, uh, Nealand for the Cowboys, Marshawn Nealand. I don't want to speculate anything about the case or make my own assumptions, but it's a tragedy nonetheless. And prayers to his family. Um, but let's go ahead and get into the episode, and let's just talk. Let's just get into it. First thing I want to talk about is if you want to listen or get more information from this podcast, maybe you enjoy it, but you don't want to sit here for 30 minutes or an hour. Listen to what I got to talk about. If you want just like small little nuggets, you can check out the socials, obviously. But there's this app that I've been using a lot recently called Ball, and I love it. It's awesome. I used to see ads for it all the time. I was like, that's stupid. I finally gave in and downloaded it. It's awesome. It's actually awesome. This is not sponsored, but I love it. I really, really do. So essentially, I'll show you my phone, but it gives you like a little prompt, right? And it says, hey, who should the Cardinals start? And we're going to talk about that in a minute. But it says, who's better, Kyler Murray, Jacoby Brissett? Is Kyler Murray going to play for the Cardinals anymore? Just all that stuff. Here, let's do one right now. So do Jets fire sales continues. You click on it, it gives you like a little question, and then it gives you to explain yourself. And then based on your prediction, you earn points, and the top winner each week wins some money. I think this week it's like $10, but still, you win some money if you get all the predictions right, and it's a lot of fun. You can go through the comments. It's pretty funny. The people in there are pretty funny because you're not putting any money on it. It's just your takes or whatever. And I saw like QB rankings where the top 3 were Drake May, Bo Nix, and I think it was Dylan Gabriel. No, it was Joe Flacco, Bo Nix, uh, and Drake May, and so all the comments were like, "I'm sensing a pattern." And they're like, "Guys, I no, it's a joke. Like it's funny." So download it if you want to see more. You can follow me on there at the Couch Sports. But let's go ahead and get into today, and let's go ahead and start with that first question I asked. The Cardinals, what should they do? And I want to first look at kind of the downfall of Kyler Murray. What's going on? He's struggled with injuries, and he's had some really high highs and some really low lows. Arizona not doing too well this season. I mean, they did get a good win against the Cowboys, but still not doing too hot, and especially in a contested division, it almost seems like the playoffs are out of reach. And at the end of the season, what are you gonna do? They have a pretty decent roster. They were kind of my dark horse candidate for the playoffs. They made a lot of noise in free agency, got Josh Sweat, who I think is a great move. I think they had one of the best drafts. But obviously injuries. I mean, Trey Benson's been out, James Conner's been out, Kyler Murray's been struggling to stay healthy. I think McBride missed a few games. So it's just Will Johnson, one of their rookies, missed a few games. And so there's just a few things that obviously there could have been more from this Cardinals team, and I think that they're better than the record shows. But like you look into this division, they're 3-5 right now. Every other team in their division has 6 wins. I mean, that's how competitive the NFC is right now. And so when you look towards next year, I don't know how they're going to look, but I think that if they choose to move on from Kyler Murray, they're probably going to have a pretty good pick the way it stands right now. Do they take a quarterback? Are they going to be high up enough to take a quarterback? And I think they might. I think they might be able to take a franchise guy, maybe have Brissett keep going or Kyler. But I want to look at the end of this year because going into 2026, they still have Kyler Murray. They still have a lot of their guys on here. Jacoby Brissett, they still have Walt. Oh, I forgot they have Walter Nolan, who had a heck of a game, by the way. I remember talking about this podcast how I kind of thought he was a little overrated. And then after watching more of him, I loved him. And I wish he fell to the Eagles. But the Cardinals took him. And yeah, Walter Nolan looks great. This defense is has some real upside when they are fully healthy. It's just the offense, man, and I don't think that it's necessarily Kyler Murray's fault, but he's just not playing well. I think you can tell that his stature really limits him. I mean, he has to play for him and let's say Matthew Stafford to have the same exact stat line. Kyler Murray has to play harder because his stature limits him, and it's very apparent. He's dynamic with his legs, and a few seasons ago when the Cardinals had the 7-0 spurt, he was an MVP candidate, and then now the fall off here, it kind of makes you wonder what happened. I think it's a mix of the injuries, different coaches, not having the best roster, until this year, and I don't know. I also think that losing their running game coordinator to the Cowboys is a huge thing. I mean, James Conner was going crazy last season, and now their running game coordinator left to go to the Cowboys, and now you see Javonte Williams putting in work over there. I think there's definitely a correlation with that. But I honestly think that we've already seen Kyler Murray play his last game as an Arizona Cardinal. I mean, if you're at the end of the season, why put Murray back in the lineup? There's almost no reason to risk him getting hurt and then you can't trade him, or risk him playing bad, or risk him playing good and knocking you out of a great pick. I think that if they're able to string a few more games together, maybe they could have some playoff hopes. But let's be honest, this NFC is crowded. I mean, 3 teams in the NFC West are going to have a shot to make it, and all 4 teams in the NFC North have a shot to make it. I mean, it's just a hard year to be in the NFC. I think that it's better if they just finish with Jacoby. He's been playing well. And I think that Murray has already suited up for his last game with the Cardinals. I think they trade him next year to a team that wants to take a shot, trying to rebuild, maybe doesn't have a quarterback. Um, Teams like the Jets, I think that even next year they probably won't have Fields and they probably won't take a quarterback. I think that they will keep using those picks to just keep building their team. I mean, they just got rid of a lot of depth. But I think that the Cardinals, when healthy, Kyler Murray is better than Jacoby Brissett. But I don't know if we're going to see that. I don't know if we're going to see him 100% anymore. And so I think they just finished with Brissett. He's been able to get the ball to everybody, and he's been playing pretty well. But, we just mentioned the Jets a few minutes ago, so let's go ahead and talk about that. What do we think the Jets are going to do? And let's go ahead and grade the Jets draft day. Or not draft day, the trade deadline. I honestly think it's pretty smart. I saw a lot of people saying, like, oh, this is them playing Madden, getting all these first round picks. Why would you trade away Sauce for a present? Or, like a gift box, a lottery ticket? What are you doing? Guys, this Jets team is terrible. Their defense is not there. It's not the top 5 defense that was there when Robert Saleh was there. This is not a good offense with Justin Fields. I mean, in fact, it might be the worst offense. And it's just not it. It's just not. This is not the route to go. They built this team there. They tried to make it work by getting Fields in free agency. They said, hey, hopefully he takes a step and we're able to get all of our playmakers and defense going. Didn't work. I mean, it's very clear. It's very clear. So, what do? I don't think this is a bad idea. Trade Quinn Williams. Trade Sauce. Like you're freeing up money. You're getting draft capital. Like just continue building this team from the ground up. And I know there's already a lot of guys, but once those contracts are up, I mean they're young. Once those contracts are up, one they're gonna be older, and they're gonna be more expensive. It's going to be more expensive to sign Garrett Wilson again, to sign Sauce again. I mean that I think they have him for a long time, but these guys, you're going to have to pay money. You're not going to be able to pay all of them because they had such a stellar draft a few years ago. And that's why I kind of trust this team. Everybody's saying, oh, the Jets haven't been relevant. They don't know how to draft. They had an insane draft just a few years ago. Okay, I trust this organization to do this because what else are they going to do? You want them to run it back next year with the same squad that hasn't worked? It's just not going to work. It's just not that no. And I think this is a smart decision. Sauce, you only have so many years with a cornerback for the most part. I mean, there's outliers, but for the most part, that's a position that has a pretty short lifespan. I think this is a great move by the Colts and by the Jets. And do I think the Jets won a little bit? Yeah, I do. But it doesn't matter. The Colts don't care if the Jets win one right now. You know what I mean? They're not competing. They're not competing with the Jets. They're competing with everyone else, and they say, hey, these two draft picks aren't going to help us right now. You know what we need to do right now? Get a corner. And they did that, and I really loved it. They have one of the best secondaries in the league, and they were starting Xavier Howard just a few weeks ago. Now, with DeForest Buckner hitting IR, that defense does take a little bit of a hit. But, like I said, they get sauce. I think it's okay. And then trading away Quinn Williams, I think that's fine. For the Cowboys, I didn't like it as much because you gave up almost what you gave up for Micah Parsons to get Kenny Clark and Quinn Williams. I think the defense will definitely improve, but I don't know. And I think that people have seen the Packers struggle recently and labeled it as, oh, it was a mistake by the Packers to trade those picks. No, it wasn't. The problem is not with the defense. It is not the fact that Micah Parsons is playing bad. It's that the offense, while very efficient, just sometimes looks like doo doo. It just looks like doo doo sometimes. I like everything would suggest that this Packers offense is amazing, but you watch it and they are in low scoring games and they get off to slow starts and they lose to the Panthers and the Browns, tie with the Cowboys, and it it's what are we doing for the Packers? And it's not the defense. I think there's definitely problems in the secondary, but I don't think that it's necessarily the worst defense. And so, I think Jerry Jones kind of improved his image from the people with this deal. I don't think it's the worst deal, but I would give it a C. You gave up your first round pick, which is almost going to be worse than the Packers. The Packers always seem to be pretty good, so I don't know. That just must have been the offer, but I will say that I wish the Jets did move Brees Hall. I think Isaiah Davis and Braylon Allen. I know Braylon Allen's not playing, but I think they've showed promise, and I don't think they're Brees Hall, but trade Brees Hall where you can. Get whatever you can for him. I mean, what's the difference between the Chiefs' third and the Chiefs' fourth? I mean, it's what's the deal? I mean, I don't know. I think that they should have just moved him. I don't think they should have stayed there. I think they should have just taken the fourth for half a year. I mean, what are they going to do with Brees Hall? They're not going to give him a contract. I don't think that's the plan. Why, if you're this early in a rebuild, I don't think you give a running back a deal. So I think I was very surprised that he wasn't the first one traded, especially to the team like the Chiefs, where they don't really have a dynamic running back. I mean, Pacheco really isn't that guy, and Kareem Hunt really isn't that guy anymore either. So overall, Jets have a B plus trade deadline. I think they could have done more. I think they, even though it was one of the most shocking trade deadlines I've ever seen, I think they could have done more. And applaud the Colts, applaud the Cowboys. I like the Cowboys doing something. They might as well. But now you need to get Dak playing at the same level he was at the first half of the season. But another team that was pretty active, not on trade deadline day, but around that time was the Eagles. Got Jair, got Jalen Phillips, got. I want to double check his name. I don't want to get it wrong. Michael Carter. Okay. They get Michael Carter. and Jair really improved that quarterback room. And Jacorian Bennett is coming off IR soon. So I think that this Philly defense is looking better because Brandon Graham's coming back and they get Jalen Phillips. And I just really like this. They address their needs and were aggressive with it. I think that's what you got to do. I mean, you're giving up 6th and 7th rounders and a third. Like, it's whatever. Go do it. But I really enjoyed this trade deadline. It was a lot of fun. I think Rashid Shaheed to the Seahawks is really great too. They didn't really have a dynamic number two. A reunion with Clint Kubiak and Rashid Shaheed. So I loved it. I love the trade deadline. I think all the moves were pretty good. I didn't see any that were kind of head scratching besides the Bears signing Joe Tyrone Shonenka. I think that's how you say his name. But I didn't really get that one. I know they need edge help, but he's not the guy to do it. He has 0 sacks in the last 80 games. It's just he's not having a great season, and I know they didn't give up a lot for him, but you would think that they would be more aggressive, especially with, you know, in any other part of the field. I mean, even the cornerbacks, they didn't even go out and get a cornerback because their whole secondary has been hurt like all season. I mean, it's just, I was really surprised. I was also a little surprised they didn't try and move on from Swift or try and get another running back. I know Monangai had a great game, but I would have maybe moved Swift and just let Monangai stay. But I know that Ben Johnson loves his 1-2 punches back there. But let's move on from the trade deadline. It was obviously a big part of this last week, but let's go ahead and move on to what do we want to talk about? Man, that Thursday night game last night, we can talk about that. That was the prime example of why Thursday night football sucks. I love that I get to watch football on Thursday. I hate that the games suck, and that is most of the time what happens. Especially a few years ago, it was a rough stretch, and last night was it. It was just a game no one cared about unless you were a Broncos or Raiders fan, and nothing really was happening except for picks and bad plays, and it's just not good. And I think you see that the Broncos 7-2 is a little more fraudulent than it looks. I really am worried about the Broncos because of how ineffective Bo Nix is at sometimes. And look, when he's effective, he wins games. They have 4 games where they were losing in the fourth quarter and they came back and won. So, like, Bo Nix obviously has the ability, but it's just not there half the game, and it almost puts them in situations where they're just out of reach, and I think that's saving them right now. I just don't trust the Broncos and this Raiders team. I think it's time. I was seeing a lot of people say that Pete Carroll should be fired. I don't know about that. I think that this is his first season with a brand new team after not coaching for a few years. I don't understand why that gets you fired, especially when the Raiders have had Antonio Pierce, who they gave a season and a half, and with a terrible roster, and they fired him. I think Pete Carroll does not deserve to be fired. I don't think Antonio Pierce deserved to get fired. Um, like firing a coach is not something to do to shake things up. A big trade is what does that. Firing the coach means a whole new system, whole new regime. It completely tanks your season almost, and it's just not the move. Let's see what else we got on the docket though. Let's talk about the Week 10 games. Let's go ahead and talk about what we got. Actually, no, let's do power rankings. Let's do power rankings because I'll do the games on the socials this weekend. Let's see Week 10 power rankings, okay? Coming in at number 10, I got the Seahawks. I love how efficient the Seahawks team has been. JSN is my offensive player of the year vote right now. I mean, he's on pace for 2,000 yards. And it's just ridiculous watching them play. Like I mentioned last week, something doesn't feel right with the Seahawks. I don't know what it is, but it just works. Their run game is not very good, but JSN is just amazing. He's always open, and it doesn't matter what the stakes in the game, they're gonna win. Almost it feels, and I think it's partially because this defense is probably top 3 in the league. if not the best defense in the league. It is amazing. But I worry about the offensive line still, especially when going up against elite teams. I know that they have a great record, um, but I'm still worried about the offensive line. And now with the trade for Shaheed, I guess the offense could be a little more, you know, 1-2 punch. But I'm worried that if they somehow manage to take away JSN, I don't know what else is going to happen. I know that in the Cardinals game on Thursday Night Football, they were able to take away JSN for the first half. And, some other guys had some big plays, but that's because that Arizona team really wasn't healthy. Their corners weren't very healthy, so the guys they were having play were, not the guys that are going to be on the other teams in this top 10. Then at number 9, we got the Chiefs. Really tough loss to Buffalo. Mahomes didn't look great. Kelsey's having a pretty good season, and Rice is coming back. And I think that overall this team is going to be fine because of the Chiefs. It's not January, so that it just seems like they don't care if it's not January. And I think they sit at 9 because I think a lot of these other teams in front of them have, one, already beaten them, or two, they just have more upside. And then coming in at number 8, we got the Lions, coming off a rough loss to the Vikings. And I didn't want to demote them too much because they had a blocked field goal, and I think the game could have been a lot different, very easily. And I still like how much talent is on this team, but the loss of the coordinators is big, and I think they're still trying to get completely acclimated to the new. I know it's week 10 and they're still getting acclimated, but this roster is so damn good. And Jahmyr Gibbs is one of the best running backs in football. Amon-Ra is one of the best receivers in football. Aiden Hutchinson is one of the best edge rushers in football. So, then at number 7 we got the Bills. Really like how well this Bills team has been playing, especially against the Chiefs last week. Josh Allen was kind of struggling, but they seem to have found their footing a little bit, and this defense, played well enough to stop Mahomes. At number 6, I got the Packers. I kind of wish I put them lower on this list, but I love their defense, and I think that Jordan Love is still pretty good. I just hope that once Jaden Reed comes back, they'll be able they'll have their wide receiver by committee. It's going to work a little bit better. But I really want to see this offense going. That was a really rough game against the Panthers. I mean, really rough, really bad. And then losing Tucker Kraft is huge. I mean, he was probably their best, a top 3 offensive player for them. And it's really rough to see that. But so if I had, I would probably move them down 1 or 2 because of the injury and also because of that rough loss to the Panthers. But I want to keep them there because I do think that they still are a really good team. Coming in at 5, I got the Patriots. Drake May's playing out of his mind. I mean, I think he's probably in my top 3 for MVP. I don't know why that sounded hard to say. It's not hard to say. But the Patriots are playing amazing. The defense looks good, but very close game against Atlanta. Would have gone to overtime, and in my opinion, probably would have lost it if Parker Romo hit that extra point. And Drake London was cooking Gonzo, so we got to see what happens. I think Gonzo's a great corner, but we'll see how this team plays the rest of the season. But I also have them up here because they have one of the easiest schedules left, and I think they're just going to keep dominating, and they might be the number 1 seed in the AFC this season. Then we got the Buccaneers. I think Baker Mayfield's going to bounce back, coming off the bye. Still no Bucky, which is really concerning. But White's been serviceable. Ibuka is playing well. And I think that they're going to get the rookie Tez Johnson more involved. He's going to step up. I think that this Buccaneers team also has a pretty underrated defense. All right, we're back. Camera died, but we're back now. I left off with the Buccaneers. Look, plain and simple, this team is good. They are very clutch. And I think that you could have the same knock on the Bucks that you could the Broncos, but Baker Mayfield is a much better quarterback than Bo Nix. And I think that all around at the skill position players, they have better guys. Mike Evans, I think he's out for the season, but Chris Godwin will be back. Bucky will be back. I trust this Buccaneers team more than the Broncos. And I have them at 4 because I think that they are just as high powered as anybody else. Okay. And then at the 3, give me the Rams. The only thing that I worry about with the Rams is when Puka's out. And when Puka's been out, they've been pretty damn good. Um, and I think, they lose to the Colts. Or, sorry, they lose to the Eagles. They beat the Colts, the 2 teams I have ahead of them. But this Rams team is as good as anyone. Matthew Stafford's been playing amazing. I think he has career highs in a lot of his stats. And Puka's the dog. And the defense as well is playing really well. And then at 2, the Colts. I know a rough loss to the Steelers. When you take away Jonathan Taylor, you're going to force Daniel Jones to play, and it's not going to be the outcome the Colts want. But do I think every team can do that? Not really. And do I think that they will find ways to beat that? The Colts are going to look at this and say, how are they beating Daniel Jones? Obviously, right? They're going to find ways to beat it. I trust Shane Steichen. I trust this Colts team that has been phenomenal throughout the year. So they're my number 2. And then number 1, the Eagles. The Eagles, come on now. One of the best rosters in football, if not the best roster. The defense just got so much better. I do want to see them all play, but defense got much better. And one of the best offenses in football. Look, last 2 weeks that they played, been amazing. And you can have all the knocks you want on all the dysfunction that's happened beforehand. But the Eagles are just simply the best team. Jalen Hurts is playing phenomenal. And the A.J. Brown stuff is so annoying. I mean, it's already past the trade deadline. Why are people asking him, oh, are you surprised you're still here? He was never going anywhere. He was never going to get traded. It was kind of ridiculous. But Eagles number 1, they are the best team in the league, and they are my Super Bowl pick still. At the beginning of the season, my Super Bowl pick was the Bird Bowl. Ravens, Eagles. And now, look, the injuries the Ravens suffered, they're going to have a long road ahead of them. I do think that they make the playoffs, but they'll probably have to play the Chiefs and the Bills. And the Patriots. I think that they might have to play all those teams, and that's not going to be a good recipe. So, instead of the Ravens, I'm trying to think about my AFC pick. And based on my power rankings, I would say the Colts, right? But I just don't trust that in the playoffs, against all these great teams that the Colts do. They're able to win. They beat the Broncos, who off kind of bullshit. They lost to the Rams off of kind of bullshit. And then they lose to the Steelers. I just don't see a world where they make it a Super Bowl. I think maybe the AFC Championship game, but I don't think the Super Bowl. And I want to trust the Chiefs, but I think my Super Bowl matchup right now would be Bills, Eagles. I think that would be a lot of fun to watch. Especially with the questions on defense for both sides. And I think that Philly did a really great job at patching those holes while the Bills are kind of just leaving. But yeah, that's my Super Bowl pick. Those are my Week 10 power rankings. What else should we talk about? I mean, I feel like this is a pretty good week of football. Kind of talked about everything I wanted to talk about. Low key. Yeah, that might be it, man. That might be it for this episode. How long are we going? Probably like 30 some minutes. Let's go in here and Jaden Daniels injury. Holy crap. That is a top 5 worst injury I've ever seen on live TV. The other ones being like the Nick Chubb one. That was gruesome. And I can't remember the guy's name on the Bears. But he had a crazy injury with his leg where his knee bent the wrong way, and it was like the Jane Daniels arm thing, but with his knee. Crazy. and even worse. That's the worst one I've ever seen. Um, but I do not encourage you to look it up. But if you are curious, look it up. But be ready. Um, but I think let's talk about the Commanders. Losing Jaden Daniels, already not having a great season. What are they supposed to do? Didn't make any moves at the trade deadline. And now they're kind of saying, what, Jaden, they're not putting him on IR. He might come back. And I just think that there's no point. I mean, he's been hurt all year. Your team sucks. The defense is not good. Terry McLaurin's been out all damn year. He ran off with a check. And so, I think that it's kind of over with. I think you just I don't want to say like you give up, but you're not making the playoffs, especially in this NFC. And at this point, you're gonna decide which mid to early first round pick you're gonna have. So I think it's best just to keep Mariota in there, see how things are going with the rest of the offense, and then you can evaluate for the season. I don't think there's any reason to put Jaden Daniels in. He gets enough practice time as it is with his VR headset. I think you just keep Mariota in and keep going. Um, but yeah, a gruesome injury. I wish Jaden Daniels the best. Almost just called him Jaden like we're best friends. No, we are. Thanks, Jaden. I hope you have the best. And you were my fantasy team last year. I really appreciate it. You're not on this year. Um, but we're homies like that, I guess. Yeah, I think that's gonna be it for today's episode. Excited for this week of football. Maybe we go ahead and look at some of the games, actually. You know, uh, Colts Falcons in London. That's gonna be an interesting game. I think that's gonna be a real hot and cold test for both teams. Colts have been hot. Finally get a loss, a bad loss, an okay loss to the Steelers, and now they play a really hot and cold Falcons team. And it'll be interesting to see how this new defense plays, how Daniel Jones will look to bounce back, and Drake London already just had a great game against Gonzo. Let's see how he matches up against Sauce. And what are some of the other games? Oh, Monday Night Football's banging. Packers and Eagles. That's going to be such a good game. I think this Eagles defense is immediately going to get tested straight after the deadline. And Micah Parsons will look to give Philly fans nightmares, just like he did twice a year when he was on the Cowboys. Browns Jets. Blah. Jaguars Texans. Blah. Bills Dolphins. That's a good chance for the Dolphins to, upset the Bills, and the Bills are really gonna have to survive the game. Almost didn't survive it last time. Patriots Bucks. That might be the game of the week though. That's gonna be really interesting to watch. Two guys that are, I wouldn't say Baker's necessarily in the MVP race anymore, but he was a few weeks ago, and it'll be especially fun to watch that game. Giants Bears. That's gonna be a big game for the Bears. Huge because the Giants are gonna be able. They're there just to make teams' season worse. I mean, they're literally just there to steal a game and have a top 10 pick. And so the Bears are really gonna have to escape that one after a miracle at Cincinnati. Oh my gosh, we didn't talk about that. The Bears Bengals game. That's game of the year right there. That's game of the year. Fire ending. I mean, it's always fun when you're with a fan of the other team and they have a crazy, like, I guess it wasn't a comeback, but an almost comeback. Like, it's so insane. And I was watching it with some of my friends, and that was such a good game. Game of the year. Colston Loveland breakout finally. Ben Johnson finally showing us why he drafted Colston Loveland top 10. But anyways, let's go ahead and wrap up for this episode. Thank you for all listening. Check out the socials. Download Ball. Follow me on there. Um, and let me see your takes. I was actually thinking about if people are on the app and they at me with their take, I might make a video about it, talking about it on the TikTok. So if you are interested in that, do that for sure. Thank you for listening, and see you next week. This podcast is produced by Student Media. Student Media is a student organization at the University of Evansville. Student Media produces the Crescent magazine, published online and in print 3 times a semester. Student Media produces several podcasts and utilizes design, photography, video, and sound for its experimental and academic learning in journalistic endeavors and engaging storytelling. Student Media elevates the voice of the student body and connects the campus and community to important information and points of view.